not going straight to 5 grams of testosterone. I'm going to
obviously.
Right. Well, it's like I've gotten so many people, a bunch of different podcasts talking about this, where they're like, they think I'm already on 5 grams of test.
Vigorous podcast with the one and only, the homebrew king, Chase Irons. And he's also the world's most honest, enhanced bodybuilder, according to Jeff Nippert and your Instagram bio.
That's right.
Tell me about this road to 20,000 nanograms per deciliter, Chase. What's going on?
The road to 20K. Yeah. So I was in that Jeff Nippert video because Derek, your good friend, everybody's good friend, More Plates, More Dates, reached out to me and was like, hey, do you have any blood work from, your 3,500 testosterone cycle you did last year? And I was like, I do actually. And, the number was beyond 10,000. And like, I didn't even realize that the test that I took was going to have a cap at 10,000. I thought it was just like at 1,500 it caps. And if you don't have a cap at 1,500, then your testosterone will. Of course, I didn't even think it would go higher than 10,000. Like I didn't think my numbers would be higher than 10,000. So when I saw that, Derek was like, well, shit. He's like, you don't have any like ultra sensitive testosterone tests that could, do that. And I was like, not that. I was like, I haven't checked it. And then he went looking through his like Merrick files and found somebody that had like a 17,000. And he was like, yeah, but he didn't know, like he couldn't, disclose
no, of course
who it was
not,
or anything like that. So couldn't use it in Jeff's video. But so then it was kind of like, well, I wonder if there is a cap on that one. Like, what if there's a cap at 20,000? And so I was kind of like, that could be an interesting experiment. And it came down to Derek was like, well, the next time you go to do a cycle, let me do your blood work and, we'll see what we come up with. And
see if we can break the liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry testing, the high sensitivity.
Basically, yes.
So you can imagine in the lab, they're showing it to their colleagues. They say, this can't be right. I think the machine is broken.
So that's so where it was kind of like, that's where we were kind of like, I think 5 grams of test would do it. It should be pretty damn close. But I mean, I don't know. We'll kind of find out. But yeah, I made a video talking about the next cycle game plan, which right now I've been cruising on a gram of test it's been like a month and a half, almost 2 months at this point. So I'm going to be not going straight to 5 grams of testosterone. I'm going to
obviously.
Right. Well, it's like I've gotten so many people, a bunch of different podcasts talking about this, where they're like, they think I'm already on 5 grams of test, which is just like, no. But
it takes a while. It takes a couple months to build up to that point.
Right. But they also think I'm just like going to go from 1,000 to 5,000 and everything else that I have planned like overnight. And I was just like, well, that's like, why would I do that? Like, that's not smart at all. Like, let me take baby steps up to it and just see how things go along the way in case there is a point where it's like, okay, maybe this is too much. Let's back off. But like, I know I can get to 3,000 tests, 3,500 tests. And like, I ran that for most of last year and the first half of this year, pretty much, the first 4 months of this year. And it was great. So I know I can go to 3,500.
And that was with 1,400 Masteron on the side, right?
Last year was 1,400 Masteron. This year was 700 Primo. So
okay. So you had 3,500 tests at one point and 1,400 Masteron.
That was last year.
Yeah. So that's basically 5,000 milligrams of steroids per week.
Yeah.
So you can get there. Of course, Masteron, you have a little bit of a different effect than just test. But,
right.
According to some pros we know personally, it is doable.
Yeah. No, it's, I don't think, well, so this time around though, I haven't messed around with EQ in a long time. So I'm going to put that next to the testosterone. And instead of like Master Primo.
Your anxiety is going to be through the roof, dude.
Well, so that's the thing is like when I'm going to start off, I'm going to go to 2000 test and then bring in EQ at 700.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go from 2000 to 3000 test, and then bring the EQ up if I feel like I want to, because like at any point any of these can change. You know, like I might just leave EQ at 700 the whole way through if I'm like, maybe not. But the game plan is like if everything goes perfectly, it would be going to 3000 test and then 1000 EQ and then 4000 test and then 1400 EQ and then 5,000 test, 1,400 EQ, moving that way. But if anything, like I said, if anything...
Wouldn't that be like 6,500?
It would be, yeah. But it's still 5,000 tests.
Okay, so but then you need to have that conversation with Jordan Peters, right? Because he ran like 6 gram a test or 6 gram a gear at one point, and he said it didn't make any difference beyond 4,000.
Yeah.
So maybe if you want to get the highest reading possible, I would just use an aromatase inhibitor and skip the EQ all entirely.
Really?
Just the hematocrit and all that stuff. Like I just did a deep dive on aromatase inhibitors. Will be up in a couple days, so make sure you watch that. But I think if you control your serum estradiol levels, you don't need to do mastrone or boldenone, because those won't detect on a liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry test, so you won't get any numbers.
That was one thing I was curious about. Was
so no, it won't.
How much will the other things possibly skew my total test number?
No, it won't, because that's the most sensitive one. So it will only detect the testosterone if that's what it's after.
Okay.
So if you want to go as high, like if you just want to go in a cycle of 5 grams, okay, we design it intelligently, test boldenone, maybe a little bit of primo, right, as an example.
Right.
But if you want to go for the highest number, then I would just run. On blood work, I would just run test and an aromatase. Yeah, and then you probably don't need 5,000 milligrams because you're preventing the aromatization.
Yeah.
You can also prevent the 5-alpha reduction, but then it might kill your dick.
Well, we don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that, right? So
I said, it's still like all up in the air on like how I'm going to go about doing this, but nothing's set in stone. Can absolutely adjust things on the fly. I'm not just going to force myself to go through with something, if things start feeling off. And it's not like if you're going to die overnight, like people are just like, you're going to die, you're dead. Like you started this, you're dead. I'm like, it's not like that. Like, do you guys realize I was on 5 grams of gear like all last year? And at the end of it, everything came back great. So it's like,
we reviewed your blood work on this YouTube channel, and you did blood work in between. You did organ imaging. I mean, but of course, there's nobody in our space that is really transparent about it, making educational content like you do. So you're basically the first. Like I ran 2.5 grams of testosterone right back in the day, and my blood work was great. Just tested an aromatase inhibitor, insulin, and growth hormone, and I was full as a house. So. But yeah, I mean, people need a refresher, I guess, that this is doable and that this is not unheard of. I mean, ask Kurt Havens or Paul Barnett or other guys that coach people at the highest level, Justin Harris. It's not uncommon, this kind of stuff, but most guys just don't talk about it.
They just don't talk about it, yeah. So it's like, I mean...
And when you read your comments, you read those mean tweets, right? You did the mean tweets video. Or was it in the live stream?
It was a live stream,
And then you realize, like, of course you don't open up about it, because then you get the comments like this, and why would you want to deal with it? So you just swoop it under the rug.
Yeah.